So we have updated Russian casualty data pertaining to their war in Ukraine. Let's go over it and discuss what it means. Now, the Institute for the Study of War reports that in January of 2025, Russia suffered about 48,240 casualties, roughly the equivalent of 3 motorized rifle divisions. Now, I want to caveat that casualties do not just mean killed in action. Casualties are defined as dead, wounded, desertions, and captures. This makes January the second highest month of losses since Russia invaded Ukraine back in February of 2022. At the same time, Russian forces gained around 498 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory, including taking back some territory in Kursk Oblast. This breaks down to about 16 square kilometers per day. Based on those numbers, Russia lost about 96 soldiers for every square kilometer they seized. In December of 2024, Russia saw its highest month of casualties thus far, with 48,670 losses. During that time, they managed to take 593 square kilometers of land. Why am I telling you these past casualty numbers? Well, it means that in January, Russia gained about 100 fewer square kilometers than in December, while taking nearly the same amount of casualties. This suggests that Russian forces are bogging down. In the fall of 2024, Russian military leaders seemed willing to accept record high losses in order to capture more territory. But with progress now slowing, it's unclear whether they'll continue to tolerate such high casualties, especially as their forces move into heavily defended areas like Pokrovsk. At the current rate of advance, which is approximately 500 square kilometers per month, Russia would require 82 years to fully occupy Ukraine. This timeline assumes no changes in battlefield conditions, resistance, or external factors, which is obviously unrealistic. Now, the cost of such an effort would be extreme. Based on current casualty rates, Russia would lose approximately 48 million troops, which is an astronomically unsustainable figure given that the entire pre-war military strength of Russia was under 1 million active personnel and around 2 million reserves. Even with a full mobilization of their country, at 45 million military-aged males from the age of 15 to 64, Russia just does not have the manpower nor the logistical capability to sustain these losses over decades. Even if Russia were to triple its territorial gains to 1,500 square kilometers per month, it would still take over 25 years to occupy the entirety of Ukraine with similarly catastrophic casualties. There are only really two scenarios in which Russia could take Ukraine in a shorter time frame. First would be a total collapse of Ukrainian resistance, such as through complete economic failure, and this would likely happen due to a full cutoff of NATO, EU, and US support, or if there was some major internal instability. Those likely would go hand in hand. Or second, a major shift in Russian military strategy, including full-scale mobilization and possible use of weapons of mass destruction, which would create significant internal and external political and economic damage to Russia itself. Even if Russia were to gain full control of Ukrainian territory, sustained guerrilla resistance would likely continue for decades, much like the Soviets experienced in Afghanistan or the US in Iraq and Afghanistan. And as I said in a previous video, Russia is actually less prepared to weather that type of guerrilla insurgency than the Soviets were in the 1980s. Therefore, under current conditions, Russia cannot fully overrun Ukraine within a practical time frame. The most likely outcome is a prolonged war of attrition which favors Ukraine, given the current observed casualty ratio is 1 Ukrainian soldier killed for every 4.6 Russian soldiers killed. So for the near term, it seems we will likely continue to see only slight shifts on the front line with no decisive military resolution unless external factors significantly alter the balance of power. These include a Russian economic collapse or perhaps a massive surge in Western weapons to Ukraine, leading to a major battlefield defeat of the Russians.